Audiobook Academy Biography presents Clint Eastwood. Actor Clint Eastwood, better known by his stage name Clinton Eastwood Jr., born May 31, 1930 in San Francisco, California, U.S., is an American motion film actor and director-producer. Early years and career. Eastwood and his family relocated several times during the Great Depression before settling in Piedmont, California, in 1940. During the Korean War, he was enlisted and sent to California. He moved to Hollywood in 1953 after being discharged from the military. The option to renew his contract with Universal was cancelled after one renewal and a string of minor roles in films like Tarantula, 1955, and Revenge of the Creature, 1955. He featured in a number of television shows until he was cast as Rowdy Yates in the popular Western series Rawhide, 1959-65, which lasted from 1959 to 1965. The Man with No Name, a fearless gunfighter whose stoicism masks his brutality, was played by Eastwood in 3 Italian westerns, known as spaghetti westerns, directed by Sergio Leone, Per un pugno di dollari, 1964, A Fistful of Dollars, Per qualche dollaro in più, 1965, For a Few Dollars More, and Il Buono, Il Bruto, Il Cattivo, 1966. The 3 films he starred in 1967 were all box office hits in the United States, launching Clint Eastwood's career as a movie star. First American Western, Hang 'em High, 1968. Dead Post's masterful copy of Leone's template, with an excellent cast of character actors, was produced by Eastwood's own production firm, Malpaso. On Coogan's Bluff, 1968, he worked with Don Siegel, who taught him most of what he needed to know about directing, an acknowledgement Eastwood frequently made. The Beguiled, 1971, Escape from Alcatraz, 1971, and 2 Mules for Sister Sarah, 1970, were all co-directed by him and Siegel, 1979. Dirty Harry, 1971, in which Eastwood initially portrayed the ruthlessly competent police investigator Harry Callahan, is their most well-known partnership. As one of Eastwood's best-known and most popular films, Dirty Harry generated 4 sequels and established Dirty Harry as a cinematic hero with catchphrases like "Go ahead, make my day." Initial attempts at directing. Play Misty for Me, 1971, High Plains Drifter, 1972, The Outlaw Josie Wales, 1976, and The Eiger Sanction, 1975, were all directed by Eastwood, who also starred in all of these films. It was Philip Kaufman who co-wrote The Outlaw Josie Wales, 1976, about a Missouri farmer who is driven to violence when his family is slain. When Chief Dan George portrayed a Cherokee elder in this film, it was the first time that Clint Eastwood's epic Avenger archetype was humanized. Clint Eastwood went on to shoot The Gauntlet, 1977, an action picture in which he played a police detective seeking to get a witness, Sandra Locke, to testify in an Arizona courthouse. Bronco Billy, 1980, featured Eastwood in a role that was a far cry from the harrowing mayhem of his previous westerns and cop flicks, and it showed him at his best as the owner of a 2-bit Wild West show who gives refuge to a runaway heiress before falling in love with her, Locke. Firefox, 1982, was a Cold War thriller starring Eastwood as a pilot who steals a supersonic jet from the Soviets. Eastwood starred as a tuberculosis-stricken country musician who longs to perform at the Grand Ole Opry in Honky Tonk Man, 1982. A quirky and emotional film set during the Great Depression. The 4th Dirty Harry picture, Sudden Impact, 1983, was directed by Eastwood, with Locke playing a rape victim on a vindictive murderous rampage. Pale Rider, 1985, a quasi-religious western, was the next film in which he reverted to his roots as a filmmaker. It was one of the few 1980s hit westerns that feature Eastwood's recognizable presence and Surtees' stunning photography. An old-school Marine sergeant on the point of retirement, Clint Eastwood, teaches a group of naive new recruits the hard way to prepare for the Grenada invasion in Heartbreak Ridge, 1986. Adapting Peter Viertel's novel La Clef about his on-location collaboration with director John Huston on The African Queen for Eastwood's 1990 film White Hunter, Blackheart was the most adventurous endeavor of this phase of his career, 1951. Actor Clint Eastwood bravely took on the role of John Huston, perfectly capturing the famous director's tough physicality. Besides Bird, 1988, a well-regarded biopic of saxophonist Charlie Parker, with Forrest Whitaker, Eastwood also directed and produced the documentary Thelonious Monk, Straight, No Chaser, on jazz pianist Thelonious Monk, 1988. As mayor of Carmel in 1986, Clint Eastwood created news across the country. He held the position until 1988, when his term expired. 1990s films. Critics were first unimpressed with Eastwood's acting technique since it was so restrained. Despite this, he was a movie office hit because to his powerful screen presence. As a harsh, aloof loner, he was able to portray himself as a morally gray character. Critics lauded Eastwood's determination to demythologize such stock characters as Western heroes and cops, and his lean and crisp filmmaking style. He gained a reputation as a director who could provide nuanced character studies and fast-paced action scenes equally well. While Unforgiven, 1992, featured an impressive performance from Eastwood as an ex-regulator, the police drama The Rookie, 1990, was an underwhelming piece of filmmaking for Eastwood. It was a win-win situation for the film and Eastwood, for Best Director. The film received great acclaim for Eastwood's realistic portrayal of the brutality of the frontier. A strange friendship arises between an escaped convict, Kevin Costner, and a little boy, T.J. Lowther, in the com-drama A Perfect World, 1993. In the movie, Clint Eastwood played a Texas Ranger who was trying to find the trio. As a U.S. Secret Service agent attempting to stop an assassination attempt on the president in Wolfgang Petersen's action thriller In the Line of Fire, he made a rare appearance in another director's film, 1993. Robert James Waller's hugely popular novel, The Bridges of Madison County, was successfully staged by Clint Eastwood in 1995 with The Bridges of Madison County. Meryl Streep's character, a farmer's wife who falls in love with Eastwood despite her better judgment, was excellently played by Eastwood in this film about Iowa's covered bridges. Similarly, John Barron's best-selling non-fiction novel Midnight in the Garden of Good and Evil, 1997, was based on a murder that rocks Savannah, Georgia, which is populated nearly completely by eccentrics. Absolute Power, 1997, featured Clint Eastwood as a robber who watches the Secret Service assassinating a woman whom President Hackman, Gene Hackman, had recently sexually assaulted. False Pretenses, 1999, stars Clint Eastwood as an ex-journalist who returns to his investigative roots after learning that an innocent prisoner will be executed that night. 2000 and recent works. In Space Cowboys, 2000, Clint Eastwood played the leader of a group of retired test pilots, Tommy Lee Jones, James Garner, and Donald Sutherland, tasked with disarming an old Russian spacecraft on behalf of NASA. After retiring from the Federal Bureau of Investigation, FBI, former profiler Jack Blood believes that he is the only one who can find the person responsible for the murder of his wife and daughter. Eastwood's directorial debut, 2003's Mystic River, raised the bar for him significantly. They played boyhood mates who have grown up to live very different lifestyles but are still tied to the working-class neighborhood in which they were born. Sean Penn, Kevin Bacon, and Tim Robbins appeared. The film was nominated for both Best Picture and Best Director awards for Clint Eastwood. With $1 Million Baby, 2004, Clint Eastwood has yet another hit on his hands. Failed relationships with his daughter, Eastwood, and a promising female boxer, Hilary Swank, Honda Krusty fight trainer, Eastwood. In the middle of her big match, tragedy occurs, and the rest of the film is about what makes life worth living in the first place. $1 Million Baby was one among Eastwood's most surprising successes, winning Oscars for Best Film, Best Actress, Swank, and Best Supporting Actor, Morgan Freeman. Eastwood won his second Best Director Oscar for the film. U.S. ticket sales totaled over $100 million. Flags of Our Fathers, 2006, and Letters from Iwo Jima, 2006, both on the Battle of Iwo Jima, were Eastwood's next two World War II films. Best Director and Best Film were nominated for the latter, which was narrated from a Japanese perspective. Los Angeles in 1928 is the setting for Changeling, 2008, a historical drama set in Los Angeles in the 1920s. Christine Collins, Angelina Jolie, is terrified when the police deliver her lost son to her in the form of a totally new child some months later. For Changeling, Eastwood was given a Special Can Award. Walt Kowalski, Eastwood, is an irascible former Detroit-area auto worker who must overcome a lifetime of prejudice towards minorities to become a guardian for a family of Hmong immigrants in Gran Torino, 2008. The movie was a huge success at the box office. Cape Town, South Africa, served as the backdrop for Invictus 2009, a film about Nelson Mandela's attempt to unite his country through the 1995 Rugby World Cup, which featured a South Africa team that was almost entirely white, and which was widely despised by the majority black population of the country. Eastwood's spectacular depiction of their inspiring triumph belied the film's deep focus on the political and cultural difficulties that the players and Mandela had to confront. An unusual Eastwood film, Hereafter, 2010, was about three people who all believe in an afterlife, despite having had quite different experiences on this planet. Eastwood does an excellent job of capturing the pain of each character, but the plot moves at a leisurely pace. J. Edgar Hoover, Leonardo DiCaprio, the FBI's long-standing director, was the subject of a hefty biography in 2011's J. Edgar. Clyde Tolson, Hoover's right-hand man and the love of his life, was played by Armie Hammer. The story of J. Edgar Hoover, a ruthless bureaucrat who rose to the status of one of the most feared and despised figures in American history, was told through the prism of a romance. Afterwards, Eastwood directed Jersey Boys, a film adaptation of the Tony Award-winning musical Jersey Boys, about the emergence of the Four Seasons in the United States. It was praised for the skill with which it conveyed both the horror of the Iraq War and the hardship of a soldier's transition back to civilian life in Eastwood's 2014 film, American Sniper, an adaptation of a Navy SEAL sniper's memoir. The film was nominated for Best Picture at the Oscars. The true-life story of airline pilot Chesley Sully Sullenberger, played by Tom Hanks, and his attempt to land a malfunctioning commercial jet on the Hudson River continues to inspire Clint Eastwood's films. Docudrama chronicles the emergency landing as well as Sullenberger's subsequent investigation into how the incident was handled. To tell the story of the 2015 terrorist attack on an Amsterdam to Paris train, Eastwood enlisted the help of the three Americans who prevented the attack to star in his upcoming film, The 1517 to Paris, 2018. His latest film, The Mule, 2018, is a drama based on a New York Times article about a World War II soldier and gardener who becomes a drug courier. Richard Jewell, 2019, a biopic about the 1996 Atlanta Olympic Games bombing and the security officer falsely suspected of carrying out the attack, is Eastwood's next film in which he once again drew inspiration from real events. As a former rodeo star, Clint Eastwood agreed to drive a Mexican man's son back to the United States in 2021's Cry Macho. The Irving G. Thalberg Award for Lifetime Accomplishment was given to Eastwood in 1995, while the American Film Institute's Life Achievement Award was given to him 2 years later. 2 years later, he was promoted to Commander of the French Legion of Honor. Thank you for listening in Audiobook Academy. Don't forget to subscribe and smash that like button for more content like this. See you in next video.